Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn called Research Resources. Our Lunch and Learn today will kind of walk you through where to go if you have an idea and how to get started. So, I first want to introduce you to our office. Our office consists of a research manager, which is myself. My name is Michelle Demas, and I will help provide assistance to you throughout your entire study startup process. I also go out and see if there's any interesting and innovative trials that I can bring to patients here at Oak Valley Health and how to and help to connect investigators with research studies. Our office also consists of research students and volunteers. Most of our students have a clinical research or regulatory affair postgraduate degree, or they're in their master's program. And our students can help assist with various research tasks such as screening, enrollment, recruitment, and even data entry. We also have research coordinators, and our coordinators can assist you in various tasks of your research study. Again, from study startup all the way to closeout, they have experience in phase one to phase four clinical research trials, as well as retrospective chart reviews and delegated studies. Our coordinators are certified clinical research professionals or registered nurses, and they have an extensive experience in research and in healthcare. So let's start off with how to share your idea. So let's say you have a potential research study. What are the next steps? How do I kind of bring my idea to life? So the first thing you can do is on all the huddle boards at Oak Valley Health, there is a little research QR code that will directly connect you with our Office of Research. There's one QR code that will direct you to us via email. Please feel free to send us an email, share us a potential research idea that you have, and within 24 hours, we'll get back to you. The second QR code directly connects you to our Acorn page, which is our intranet, and that has all the research resources that you need and can kind of help get the ball rolling how to get started. The second way is just by emailing us directly. So you can email us at researchadmin@msh.on.ca. And again, share with us your idea and we'll connect with you. We'll set up a follow up call or even a Zoom meeting. So, what are some things to think about when you want to bring your idea to life? And when you first connect with our office, these are some questions we may ask you. So, it's a good idea to think about some of these things while you're connecting with our office. So, the first is, what kind of support do you need to run your study? So, do you need maybe some funding that we need to look out for funding opportunities and write some grant applications? Do you need support in running your trial? So, maybe we need to consider research students or volunteers or even a research coordinators. Do you need support with writing a literature review? We can connect you with our in house library and they can point you in the direction to how to find peer reviewed articles. Is your project QI or research? And this is probably the number one question that our office gets is helping to determine if your project is quality improvement or quality assurance or research. We do have a guideline posted on our REB page on Acorn that can help you distinguish between QI or research. So there is a checklist on this document. By answering yes or no to some of the questions, it'll help differentiate whether or not your project is potentially QI or research. If your project is QI, we will connect you with our quality team who can point you in the direction in terms of QI resources. So the next thing is who else is needed. So who else is going to be involved in your project? Do you need support from other areas, such as maybe you need lab support, maybe you need pharmacy support, maybe your patients are not even from your department. Do you need other resources? Do you need equipment from other areas? Are you going to be sending your data or your results to anyone external that we need to maybe consider setting up a research agreement in place? And fourthly, what is your study design? So, are you creating a retrospective chart review where you're going to look back on 1 year's worth of retrospective data, or are you creating a study with human research participants? What are your objectives? How are you going to collect your data and how are you going to share your results? So, the first thing I would do when you have a potential research idea is by starting to design a protocol. And once you start to write out a protocol, a lot of the questions that you have could be teased out through this process. I do suggest that you go onto our REB page on Acorn and download our draft protocol if you don't have one already. If we are not a lead site in a study, I always suggest that you take the lead site's research protocol and take a read through that first. So, if we are designing our own protocol, the first thing we need to do is create a literature review. We need to scour the internet and see what has already been done, what results are out there, have any previous studies maybe suggested anything for future directions that future subsequent research should look at. The next thing is, what is the rationale for your study? Why are you doing your study? What is it important? Are you going to address any gaps? Or are you going to have any immediate results that you can implement into day to day activities? What are your objectives? So, what is the purpose of the study? And what are your hypotheses? So, at the end of the project or at the end of your research study, what do you hope you should find? So the next thing is designing your study. So what type of study are you creating? Is this a retrospective chart review? Is this a clinical trial? Is this a simple delegated study with human research participants? What is your expected number of participants? So how many people do you need to enroll in your study in order for you to have meaningful results? What are the potential risks and benefits of your study? And how are you going to screen and enroll patients to get data? Where are your patients coming from? How long will the study run for? So maybe it's a simple chart review and you can complete the study in 3 months, or maybe this is a study with human research participants and you have a 2 year recruitment and enrollment period. Who is your population? So where are your patients? Are these emerge patients? Are these pediatric diabetes patients? What is your inclusion and exclusion criteria? The next thing is, what are your procedures? So this is a good step-by-step process all the way from screening your patient to entering their data. So I would do a simple walkthrough if this is a study with human participants, and pretend as if you have a participant and how you're going to go from getting the patient all the way to entering their data. So consider screening, recruiting, obtaining consent, entering the data. How are you going to collect and enter the data? How are you going to retain that data? Our office may also connect you with our in house simulation team who can help do a dry run through of a potential mock patient. If you have a study with human research participants and your study involves maybe one or more departments, we may recommend this because it's a good way to iron out your study procedures, especially considering that different clinics may have different workflows or processes or our standard operating procedures for the hospital. How will you measure your results? So, how are you going to get your data? Is this a simple questionnaire or a survey? Is it an interview? Are you going to enter your data into a statistical platform like SPSS or R and run simple descriptives? Or are you going to transcribe an interview and do a thematic analysis to see different themes that have emerged from your interviews? I do want to also say that we have subsequent lunch and learns that will go into more detail on our different resources. We can point you into some resources that we have about, how to determine how many patients you need to enroll in your study to achieve power, or where to go to if you're looking at basics on stats. So you always want to consider how are you going to share your results. So there are multiple ways you can share your results. The first way is through a publication. So take a look at what journals are out there and which one might be a good home for your potential research study if you want to publish your findings. I always suggest that you reach out to the editors of potential journals you're looking at to see if they're interested in your research topic. Journals will also have an impact factor. So the higher the impact factor, the more harder it is to get your study published. Take a look at maybe what they've recently published, and does your potential study fit into what they're including in their journal? You may also want to take a look at turnaround time. So certain journals will have expedited turnaround times for topics that are emerging or that are currently of interest. So, for example, some journals right now have expedited turnaround times for COVID related research. And are you going to be publishing open access? And that's actually really important to consider because some open access journals also require you to send them aggregate data for them to hold and archive in a repository. So if that is the case, you may need to know that because we should probably engage with our legal team and make sure that that's included in your RAB review. Are you going to share your results internally? So maybe you're going to give a presentation to staff and our leadership team. Maybe it's at a manager's meeting or at MAC. Maybe you're going to ask the Office of Research to include a little expose on your findings in their next research newsletter. Will you attend a conference? And so take a look at what conferences that are out there that best fit your research topic. If you're going to attend, is this virtual? Is this in person? Are you going to do a simple poster or are you going to give an actual presentation? And what's important about conferences is sometimes they're not always free. So you do need to consider conference registration fees and even publications. Some journals may require a fee in order to submit. So if that is the case, that's something that you need to consider if you need funding support. So some tips to consider before starting a study is first of all, no matter your study results, whether or not they meet your hypotheses or they don't, or you find everything significant or nothing significant, all results are publishable. So you should have a dissemination plan for your research study. We want to make sure that we always have a plan to share our results, not only internally, but also with the community. You may also want to take a look at what kind of approvals you need. And this is really where the Office of Research can come into play and help you navigate what approvals you may need or don't need. So, how are you going to obtain ethics approval? Is that through our in house Oak Valley Health RAB? Or are you going to be obtaining approval through Clinical Trials Ontario? Do you need a research agreement? You may also want to get director approval. So, regardless if you're submitting your study for ethics approval through our in house REB or through Clinical Trials Ontario, the director of your area always needs to sign off. So, it's a good idea to engage with your director if you're going to do a research study, so that way you can make sure you have support to carry out the project. And if your site does need resources or impact other departments, you may need impact assessment approval. And again, our office will help you determine what approvals are needed or not needed. The third thing is always ask your colleagues, especially if you're designing your own survey. Maybe give a copy of the survey you're thinking of including in your project to your colleagues to take a look at. Maybe there are some questions on there that you haven't considered, or maybe the way that you've designed your study isn't user friendly. So have them take a look at even your study design to see whether or not you've considered everything. Maybe they will, ask you to consider adding a comparative group, and that's something that you never thought of when designing your study. So the next thing I want to do is walk you through our Acorn page. So on Acorn, again, you can find a research tab, and this is our intranet, our internal Acorn website. You'll find some information about us, what resources we have, again, a link to our REB page, our clinical research toolkit, and our lunch and learn videos. You'll also see that we have access to our own internal red cap. You can find a list of all of our active studies, and this is constantly being updated, as well as some considerations that you need to have in place before you start a study here at Oak Valley Health. So approvals, research training, and then on the right-hand side, you'll find an archived newsletter, our policies and guidelines, a little bit about our staff, and a little bit about the Clinical Trials Ontario process. All of our recent blogs are archived at the bottom. And again, we do have subsequent lunch and learns that will go into a lot more detail about the different processes we have and resources that we have. So I do want to share with you that all of our Lunch and Learns are recorded. They are all archived on our Lunch and Learn YouTube channel. So please go on to our Acorn page. On the left-hand side, please click Lunch and Learn videos, and you'll be directed to our playlist. We do have upcoming Lunch and Learn. So our next one is in June, and again, it goes into a little bit more detail about the resources that we have and what kind of services our office provides you as a staff member at Oak Valley Health. So I want to thank you all for listening to this Lunch and Learn and attending. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me directly. You can always email our research admin at msh.on.ca email address if you have any ideas on future Lunch and Learn topics, or if you have, a potential research idea. Thanks so much.